Hello, everyone. I'm Mike,
I'm Matt.
and this is Mind Your Own Business with Mike and Matt vodcast. Our plan today is to interview business owners and entrepreneurs and ask them a few questions that we hope will inspire you, our viewers and listeners, who want to learn how you can be better business owners and entrepreneurs yourselves. Our goal is to leave you with one good business nugget each time. So today, we have the pleasure of having Bob Heiss and Larry Sashin, founders of the Strategic Advisory Board Initiative. Gentlemen, please tell us what a Strategic Advisory Board is.
So a Strategic Advisory Board is actually peer-to-peer consulting. We organize boards made up of 6 to 7 business owners that come together twice a month for a meeting and actually act as each other's boards of directors or boards of advisors. Members will, the members who the focus is on will present a problem, something that they're either trying to fix or perhaps something that they're trying to achieve, and lay out that along with some background information on their business. And the other members act as their board of advisors, ask them pertinent questions, and make suggestions for them to move forward.
Yeah, we find that after a little tentativeness at the very beginning, the members of each of the advisory boards tend to bond together, and they play off of each other, use each other's knowledge, skill, and experience to overcome a problem that they found as a stumbling block.
Well, that's really fantastic, guys. So since this is the Mike and Matt show, you know we're going to be tag teaming you with our questions. So Matt, how about asking the first question?
Sure. So now, Larry and Bob, you folks have seen a lot of businesses. Why did you decide to start the Strategic Advisory Board? Was it a need you saw in the market, or maybe something you wanted to do or felt you needed to do?
And Bob, why don't you start?
So we, like a lot of people, are driven or motivated by our vision. And one of the visions that Larry and I have is to actually help businesses thrive, to help people maximize their potential and really achieve the lifestyle that they would like to achieve. So being driven by that vision our entire business lives, we arrived at this ripe old age with the idea that we can help them in 2 ways, and one of the main ways is, or the main way we can help them is by creating a board that they can use for sounding their ideas, for resources, for help. And so we started because we saw a large need in the marketplace with private business owners that really have no backup. They're operating in their own tribal kind of a setup. They have a lot of confirmation bias going on. They just don't get a lot of outside ideas and input.
Yeah, and what we found is, when you're running a small to medium-sized business, it's all on your shoulders. Many times it's a one-man show or a 2-person show that are running the whole organization, and they're busy paying bills, getting sales, taking care of the day-to-day operations of the business. And sometimes because they're so busy doing the day-to-day, they miss something that's going on in their group until it starts becoming this little molehill becomes a mountain, and they find themselves in trouble. The advisory board helps them get through those things and concentrate on those small problems that can become huge ones later on.
So speaking of problems, Larry and Bob, what are your board members doing during this pandemic? What are their biggest issues, and can you talk about what their plans are to resolve them?
Larry, you want to take that one?
Yeah, there is no one thing that's going on. Our members range from in the financial end to retail to technical to food service. So there's always problems. There are some things in common that they're running around with.
Larry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but specifically relative to this pandemic.
Okay, pandemic.
Yeah.
The biggest move is nobody goes visits anybody anymore. So they had to develop a new way to get in front of people, a new process of sales, a new process of getting your product in front of people or your service in front of people, so you can keep the cash flowing.
So Bob, how then are they resolving this?
Well, let me give you a specific example. We've got one of our board members is a partner in a food business. They have about 5 catering businesses. They have a restaurant as well. COVID, of course, took a large hit into their business. They had to close for a number of months and make adjustments. So they're struggling with a couple of different issues. One is running a business that is probably about half of what the revenue used to be. They, of course, had to change their menu. They had to move to the outside when things started to open up a little bit, create an outside restaurant venue. They in their catering businesses, they went after food delivery services. As a matter of fact, they were one of the main suppliers to hospitals and so forth. So, with ready-to-eat meals during the pandemic. So they're not, although the issues are different, they're not unlike anybody else. They looked at their business and figured that in order to survive and come out on the other end of this thing, we're going to have to make some radical adjustments. The board was able to help them with several suggestions. One big giant suggestion is we discovered that their clientele, their target audience, was on the older side. People that are not going to typically come out without abandon during COVID. So they determined that they want to change that target audience to a younger millennial crowd, and have been working towards there. Now, I'd like to say that there's any, like Larry said, I'd like to say that there's one general thing that everybody's dealing with, but in fact, each member has a specific situation kind of like that, but really specific to their own situation.
So let me ask you this question then. So when you ask your strategic advisory board members whether they are working on their business or in their business, what kind of advice do you offer them? Larry, how about you tackle that one?
I couldn't hear the last thing.
Well, we typically talk about people working in their business and working on their business. So what kind of advice do you offer your members of the group when they are telling you what their issues are?
Well, the beauty of the group is that some things that the business owner thinks is a calamity is really on the tip of his nose, right in front of his nose, and he just hasn't seen it. And the board gets to sit back and look at his problem unemotionally, without the stress of running his business day to day, and they give them solid information. Now, what we do at the end of during the meeting is we set them on a path that will help them solve the problem, and which we follow up in the next meeting. But it's part of, there's no new problems. I mean, there's really no new problems. And what the board does is it sifts through the panic and comes down with hard solutions for them to work on.
So I assume what you're talking about is you really help them delineate the difference between an ongoing problem, that's every day, that's survival issue,
right,
is planning for the future, what's going to happen next year, next quarter, et cetera. So they really can distinguish the difference between that in and then the on.
Yeah, can I take a whack at that one also, Mike?
You sure can.
When we ask people that question, almost invariably, 100% of the time, 99.9% of the time, the answer is we're working for the business, not on it, and that's one of the reasons they do. And there's several strategies that are actually universal. One is have an org chart, an organizational chart that accounts for, with job descriptions, that accounts for all of the functions that need to be done, and have somebody in that org chart. One of the most important techniques is be able to delegate duties to people in that org chart or to people in those functions. So delegation and organization are key. And the third thing that is almost universal is a playbook of some sort that tells people in those positions exactly what to do, when to do it, and how to do it. So those are probably the three universal things for working on the business versus being a slave to the business.
Got it. So Matt, you do have some questions. Thank you, Bob.
Yeah, so I'm going to go slightly off script here since it seems like we have a little bit of time. In your meetings, Bob and Larry, what tool do you use to give the owners recommendations, and you kind of have a unique way of having them rated?
Okay. You want to answer?
Yeah, so what we do during a meeting is the meetings are obviously virtual and on Zoom, and we put up a spreadsheet that we've structured that captures the issue they're working on. We capture the questions that everybody asks them, but most importantly, we brainstorm and capture the suggestions live on the screen in front of everybody. At the end of the process, at the end of that brainstorming process, we ask the member who's being focused on to rate those suggestions from their own perspective for their own world. They rate them on a scale of 1 to 10, 8, 9, and 10 being really important, really urgent, has to be done soon. 1, 2, and 3 really not that, doesn't really fit, and the ones in the middle would be nice to haves but not must haves. So they go through that, they rate that, which is kind of a unique tool. And then when they come back, they need to report to everybody what the outcome was, how far they got with it, did they succeed, did they fail, and any new problems that those things have created. We find that creates a great deal of accountability as well as motivation. So therein lies a lot of the power of this peer-to-peer consulting.
Right.
And,
oh, sorry, Larry. Go ahead.
And we just don't let a piece of paper guide the member in that 2-week period between the meetings. There is a midweek phone call from either Bob or myself to find out where they are with the project, what problems they're having with the project, and how they might be able to move ahead with the project so that when they show up 2 weeks later, they have a sizable progress. There's been sizable progress so they could show people where they are and what's going on.
So that process sounds like it helps them work on their business. That's great. So what are the important lessons that you two have learned about being in business that the listener could take away from today's vodcast?
That golden nugget we're looking for, guys.
Golden nugget. Listen.
I don't know.
Yeah. If there's one thing,
I've heard some good ones, but let's hear it.
If there's one thing that I've learned working with Bob, now Bob and I have known each other an awful long time, but it's been fairly recent that we started really working together. And what I learned most from Bob is to listen. Listen what's going on. Listen to what people are saying. Listen to your peers. Listen to people in your business, because a lot of the keys to running your business is out there, and we're too busy on our own little worlds. We have a problem, and there's somebody sitting right next to you that can solve that problem for you or help you through it. And I thank Bob for enlightening me a lot to this. I've been helping people, but sometimes I need help myself, and he's there for me.
Well, that's a great.
Very kind of you.
Yeah.
That's true. And I'm not free with compliments, as everybody in this Zoom knows. And it's been quite an experience the last 3 years.
So let me expand on that. One of the basic philosophies that I've developed, and now Larry has through the years, is that in order to be successful being a leader, running a business, some of the best leaders are the ones that listen the most to the people that they're leading. You can create an extremely large amount of buy-in, an extremely large amount of loyalty, and accountability and motivation if you ask the people that you're leading for their input. If you ask them to tell you what they think, if you act upon that input, they feel like they're part of the process and so forth. So the biggest challenges we see with everybody really is, how do I become a leader? How do I stay a leader? How do I even know how to lead? And that's the answer is as Larry said, listen to people, ask them for input, and act upon that input.
So, gentlemen, there you have it. And that golden nugget is to listen. And that listening, basically, then you can pair that with accountability. And those, I guess, if we have one, it's listening. If we have a second, it's that level of accountability. And it sounds like your strategic advisory board basically helps business owners and entrepreneurs learn to listen to one another, as well as to be accountable to one another. So
yeah, it's always two-way accountability. Not that somebody made a promise to you and they better keep it. You also, in listening to them and giving them advice, have to now be accountable to them, because you have to answer for your advice. And it's very important.
So, gentlemen, as we're moving along on this vodcast, I'm going to give you a chance to say a few words. So, Bob or Larry, want to take a crack at a few words?
So my few words are: we are very fortunate, Larry and I, to be able to partner up with Mike and Matt, the hosts of this podcast, to run some strategic advisory boards also. So we have banded together to create what we hope will be a movement, in the words of Arlo Guthrie from Alice's Restaurant.
I like that. I like that a lot.
We're showing our age.
Well, not necessarily. Not necessarily. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. We think that the Strategic Advisory Board is really a great idea. It's been an absolute pleasure and continues to be a pleasure working with Bob and Larry. Matt and I keep learning a lot. Maybe you can teach these two old dogs new tricks, but we are certainly learning, and we are listening, and we are understanding accountability. And so we're going to ask you folks out there who are listening and viewing this vodcast to reach out to Matt at Plociak at voiceofreasonconsulting.com, or me, M. Gansl, at voiceofreasonconsulting.com, and ask us about the Strategic Advisory Board. I think you're going to find that this is really an amazing initiative that's really going to be helpful to business owners and entrepreneurs during these crazy times. Matt, do you want to tell us how can people subscribe to our vodcast, Matt?
Well, they can go on Apple iTunes. They can do it on YouTube. They can go and see our links on LinkedIn. And actually a number of other podcast channels. Right.
Well, folks, we've done where Matt is talking about is we've done a podcast in the past. This is our vodcast. The best way to find us on this vodcast is on our YouTube channel. So look for Mind Your Own Business with Mike and Matt on YouTube. And you'll also find us, we'll be posting this on LinkedIn. I know that Bob and Larry will be posting it as well. And so if anyone has anything else to say.
Well, there is a way that people can learn about the Strategic Advisory Board. We're having a Discovery Day coming up, which is a free look and experience, an interactive look into what the Strategic Advisory Board does for our members and what it might be able to do for you. So, get in touch with Mike and Matt, and they have all the dates, the times, and
November 17th. November 17th, which is a Tuesday, from 9 to 10:30. That's our next Discovery Day.
All right. Hope to see you there.
Yeah, we do hope to see everybody. I'm Mike.
I'm Matt.
And together we're the Voice of Reason. And we want to thank you for listening to another one of our Mind Your Own Business with Mike and Matt vodcasts. So long, everybody. Thanks for
Have a great day.
Be well.
Bye.
Bye-bye.